Today we've got a special guest. We've got Dr. Jeff from Rocky Mountain Vet from the Animal Planet and Planned Pethood. I hope I have all that right. Welcome to the show, Jeff. How are you doing?
Very good, Bill.
Good. So did I get all the pieces right?
Yep, it's all correct.
Okay. So just to kind of establish a baseline, we're talking today because you've had some past experience with Montana Spay Neuter Task Force and doing work up here in Montana. Can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Well, yeah, I actually met Gene, God, I think it was probably like 91 or 92. Not too long. I graduated in 89, so just a couple of years after I got out of school. And went up to the Bitterroot Valley and met with her. And basically, that was kind of the beginning of the task force. I'd been doing large-scale mobile spay neuter, and she picked up on the idea and actually perfected it. You know, we call it the task force technique at this point. And I've lectured all over the world and brought up the task force technique. But basically, she modeled her model was off what we were doing, but she's kind of took it to another level.
Okay. And this model is basically sort of also the MASH type of just a big open space, mass spaying and neutering as quickly and safely as possible. Is that more or less what you developed?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's important. I think the thing is, the component she added was the educational component. She really did a lot of educational stuff. And when we went on Native American reservations, she had researched something like what the dog meant to the tribe in the past and maybe come up with a coloring book. And she did several very inventive things. And I mean, I used to go to schools and lecture in some, but her level of education was far better than mine.
Okay. And the story goes that you traveled around in a Volkswagen bus. The question I have to ask, having owned one, was what year did you travel around in?
Well, let's see, I graduated in 89, so by 91, I was basically traveling in a bus, but it wasn't a Volkswagen bus. It was a big old school bus.
Okay, gotcha. I was just curious on that angle. Okay, so now you're in a totally different position. You're in Colorado. Just what's your feel on, I believe we're making progress on pet overpopulation, but I also believe it's something that we still need to do a lot of work on. What's your take on that? What's the big picture looking like?
Yeah, well, there's no question. We made incredible. I graduated vet school that we were killing anywhere from 22 to 26 million animals a year, dogs and cats, depending on who you wanted to believe. Now, you know, depending on who you want to believe, we're down to 2 to 6 million. You know, so hell of a difference in 30 years. You know, having said that, 2 to 6 million, if even it's 2 million, is 2 million too many. And what does now is what I call economic euthanasia, where you go to the vet hospital and they want $5,000 for a basic surgery, so you end up putting your animal to sleep because you can't afford it. So I see overpopulation as always an ongoing issue, because the people who tend to have, where the overpopulation issues are, is where the people tend to have a lower income, maybe less education, and unfortunately there's less services. Many people never get exposed to veterinarians, have access to veterinarians. So that's part of it. Then the other side of it is kind of more like white bread middle America, where quite frankly, you know, the single mom working 2 jobs, or, you know, a young couple, they can't afford $5,000 or $6,000 or $8,000 for a bone surgery. The dog jumped the fence, got hit by a car, so they end up putting it to sleep. Not that they want to, and I do believe that's one of the biggest contributors to the depression and suicide rate in my profession, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. And so with that kind of in mind of that great progress that's been made, but still in need, where do you see it going, and what do you see as the solutions that can help even get below the 2 million type of number?
Yeah. Well, I see us at a transition point, and I don't know what's going to happen. The truth is, I had recently had a couple students out from the University of Tennessee working for me, and they were told in their dental rotation that if they didn't have a dental x-ray and took dental x-rays before doing dentistry, that it would be considered malpractice. You know, they considered it malpractice already, but certainly in the near future. And so what we've done is shift human medicine over to animal medicine. In doing so, we've driven up the prices logarithmically, and the vast majority of people, the vast majority of Americans, can't afford the average veterinarian, and I find that really sad. So that's something that has to be addressed. And I'm not sure exactly how you do it. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't believe for a second all humans get the same level of health care in this country, you know?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, exactly. So, I mean, there has to be a balance, and maybe nonprofits, you know, I don't offer Cadillac service all the time. I can't, you know, that's just the reality. Someone has to pay for it. I mean, it looks great on paper, but it's not realistic. So I think until the profession comes up. I like to see like spay neuter technicians. I'd like to see nonprofits given a little bit more leeway in terms of what they can do, maybe not be held to the same kind of AHA, American Animal Hospital Association standard, you know, because in the end, by doing so, you just double, triple the cost of everything you're doing, which means someone suffers or someone can't afford it and something, you know, some animal gets put to sleep. And I don't know how to resolve that. You know, I think too much of this is driven by money and not by science. So that's a big part of it, without a doubt. But I think that the other big thing is that we have humane societies. Your humane societies now have become bureaucratic systems, you know, and the ones that get along with the veterinary profession are the ones who, if they have a hospital, charge the same prices almost, you know. They may be on a sliding scale, but you pretty much have to go in and prove that you're destitute. Nonprofits send us people all the time. Even when we were for-profit, nonprofits would send us, because we still did things cheaper than them, because they raised their standards so high where they couldn't keep up, and half of them go out of business. But you have groups sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars doing very little with it, you know, and they should be out there in the grassroots areas, the poor areas. And I always tell people, look, if you're going to donate money, and I obviously we're 100% nonprofit now, and I love donations, but if I get a call from someone from New Jersey, it's like, well, there's got to be someone in New Jersey that can use your money, you know. Try to shop local first, you know, and if you can't find someone you trust or really believe in, then sure, I'll take your extra money because I'll do something with it.
Mm-hmm. And so is there a secondary issue or anything? I feel like one of the basically shelters, humane societies, no one's sending out unaltered pets by and large. So that's made a huge difference. Is there any other fronts that could be addressed to deal with pet overpopulation and euthanization?
Yeah, at this point, the number one reason animals end up in a shelter is behavior. Ask the average veterinarian how many behavior classes they get in vet school. You know, most zero. They might get one little 1 hour lecture kind of thing, you know. So, I mean, same with nutrition. I mean, vets, we know virtually nothing about animal nutrition, at least dog and cat nutrition, and we know virtually nothing about animal behavior. So those are, you know, the behavior side, if that's the number one reason for giving up an animal, and a lot of times that is associated with them not being fixed for the record, what we have to do is go back and re-educate ourselves or get more behavior type things in vet school. Now, vet school is going to look at it, well, that's not really a medical issue. Well, it is a life and death issue, though, in the end. And I think we need to basically, as a profession, we need to learn a lot more about behavior, or have behavior. There's all kinds of behavior groups now. I think that we have a place right down the road called Sit Means Sit, and, you know, there's all these groups popping up. And I think to educate people, our clients, and you know, and go into schools and say, you know, these things are available to you. And I think that's one way we could really reduce a lot of animals not going to the shelter in the first place. How many shelters have a full-time behaviorist or trainer on staff? Think about that, you know, in this country. You go to Europe, and you go to England, they have a vet on staff, they have a trainer on staff, they have a behaviorist on staff. That is the modern way to do stuff. And they're going to try to get the animal back in the same home if there's an issue first and foremost before they take it in and do something else with it.
Okay. That's intriguing. Do you feel like we have enough vets for the number of pets that we have in the U.S.? I mean, we're a big country.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's vets on virtually every street corner, but at the same time, they all seem to be pretty busy. But having said that, statistically speaking, most vets only fill up about 65% of their openings in a given week. You know, so there is definitely room to work with some, you know, low-income people or get some extra animals in there. But vets, if you go to a bank, a vet will lend, or a bank will lend to any veterinarian, not a problem. I mean, we are a very good risk. We don't go out of business. So in one sense, it's a great profession. You can make a good, honest living without having to rape people and, you know, go crazy. But, you know, having said that, there's got to be a balance there. And can we use more vets? Sure. I'm not afraid of competition, but I think what we need more than anything are the big humane societies open up full service hospitals catering to the underprivileged, the single moms, the people on fixed incomes, the elderly, and because that represents a vast majority of Americans out there, in all honesty, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's just, I mean, once again, how many people listening could come up with $5,000 in a pinch, you know? And most veterinary places don't take payments. They, you know, they want the money up front.
Right. So that's kind of the system side of the equation. If a viewer were to want to take something away from the pet owner standpoint, I'm appreciating your depth of thought on all these issues. I'm a thinking type of person, so you're hitting on all cylinders for me. But from the the user point of view, as pet owners. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah. It's a simple one. I've been in practice 30 years. I have one of the highest volume clinics in America, and I've had maybe in 30 years, 5 clients ask me about what would be a good pet for this situation. I have 3 kids and I live in this kind of a situation, and think about that. So once again, as a profession, we've really dropped the ball on educating our clients. My last Labrador was a lab that was bought for a grandmother, all right? And it was a puppy, obviously. And by about 6 or 7 months of age, it had eaten the whole inside the house. She put it outside, and then it had eaten the whole outside. Finally, when it ate through the cable box, that's when they brought it to me to fix it. And they said, we don't want it back. She can't handle it. Her over, knocks her down. And Billy turned out to be one of the best dogs in the world, but that dog was dumber than a rock. When I first got him, he couldn't sit, he couldn't do it. He was 9, almost 10 months old and weighed like 90 pounds, so like that probably wasn't the best fit for the grandmother, and that's the thing. Just research the pet you want. If you're going to get a boxer, you better be prepared for some cancer issues. You can research what animals, what makes them that animal, and every breed, and the more bred they are, they have certain tendencies and they also have certain problems, and you better get familiar with them. So educate yourself. Don't just go out and grab something, I guess is the point.
Okay, that's again, great thinking advice. I appreciate it. I know you're busy and everything, so any other takeaways you want to send out to my viewers before we call it an interview?
No, I'll just say, it's been nothing but a pleasure to work in Montana with the Spay Neuter Task Force, and Jean Atto was like a second mom to me. I can't begin to express, how I felt when she passed, but her legacy goes on. And I, as a veterinarian, as someone who's known for overpopulation and people feel like I've made a difference, the truth is it's people like Jean Atto and Esther Meckler that have, they're not veterinarians, but they have vision and they get with veterinarians, and they just have changed things in our society. Across this nation, we just have so much more awareness of pets and companion animals than we ever did 30 years ago.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, super. I appreciate your time so much, and have a great day, and thank you for the great work you're doing out there in the world.
No problem. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Bill.